This is Appalling News, your most trusted source for fake real news. I'm Paul Chatto. In a shocking blow to trans activists, the UK Supreme Court unanimously ruled that a woman is defined by biological sex under equalities law. This could very well bring an end to sausage danglers and geldings from taking fetish selfies in women's washrooms, inviting themselves to tea parties at rape crisis centers, and competing in women's sports once and for all. A disappointment to everyone who believe men make the best women. The court sided with Campaign Group for Women Scotland, which brought a case against the Scottish government arguing that sex-based protections should only apply to people that are born female. The Scottish government argued in court that transgender people with a Gender Recognition Certificate, or a GRC, are entitled to the same sex-based protections as biological women. The GRC has now been rendered as useful as that losing lottery ticket you keep in your drawer. But Scottish Green MSP Maggie Chapman, a prominent campaigner for trans rights who hasn't had sex in years and had forgotten its meaning, said, "This is a deeply concerning ruling for human rights and a huge blow to some of the most marginalized people in our society." This isn't true, of course, as the ruling does not take away any rights trans individuals share with everyone else. The fear is that trans rugby players will no longer be nominated for Women of the Year by the Paisley Women's Guild. Could this be the end for those two uniquely butch individuals who recently competed against each other for the Women's Billiards Championship? We're certain there will be massive marches of sexually ambiguous, diverse individuals sporting hair dyed with ecologically destructive chemicals, ruining the ruling. They will be infuriated with the wide grins plastered across the faces of their fiercest enemies, such as J.K. Rowling, Helen Joyce, and Graham Linehan. We are also certain that the majority of trans allies quietly hoped for this ruling so they could feign disappointment while telling their pesky trans associates to please tuck off. Of course, the knob bobbers are flooding the socials unhappy with the ruling. This response from Sophie Molly on X presents an interesting counter-argument. If a cis woman is perceived to be a man and doesn't have relevant documents, for example, they are a refugee, they can now legally be barred from using a female space. Women's rights have been set back 60 years in the UK. What Sophie is saying here is if a manly-looking woman who happens to be a refugee, perhaps sporting the kind of follicled upper lip widowed Mediterranean women are known for, will need a proof of womanhood passport of some sort. This, of course, is nonsense, as women can tell who a woman is just from their baggy underwear. We have no idea what was set back 60 years ago. We do know that none of this nonsense existed 60 years ago, so having it all set back by 60 years actually sounds like a fine idea. In other news, 6 women went into space and came back unchanged. Of course, we are referring to the latest Blue Origin rocket launch. The spaceflight was a high-profile success for Bezos's new Shepard launch vehicle, which has been developed for space tourism. The only reason anyone is talking about this event is because superstar singer Katy Perry was one of the passengers. The others were Bezos's perpetual fiancée Lauren Sanchez, CBS's most boring host Gayle King, former NASA rocket scientist Asha Bowe, scientist Amanda Nugent, and film producer Carrie Ann Flynn, who produced the scintillating documentary This Changes Everything, an investigative look and analysis of gender disparity in Hollywood, that nobody watched. They weren't really a crew nor astronauts. They were passengers on a Disney ride that was just a bit more expensive than the failed Star Wars Star Cruiser Hotel. Asha Bo said more people are going to be able to do meaningful research with Blue Origin because we collected data. And it wasn't just plant biology. We studied human physiology. We contributed to the knowledge base of what people know about women. Yes, that 6 women can giggle and scream for 11 solid minutes. One experiment that did work, Lauren Sanchez proved that filler, Botox, and breast implants can survive the rigors of zero gravity. They did a big group cheer on camera yelling, "Taking up space."
1, 2, 3, taking up space!
Taking up space in a feminist context as a cheer is a call to action, encouraging women to assert their presence. It's a feminist slogan that promotes confidence, self-esteem, and advocating for oneself and throwing off the patriarchy. Of course, it was mostly men who got these 6 screaming women into space, letting them take up space in space. Estimates for each launch of New Shepard were guessed to be between 1 to 3 million, divided by 6, which is about 2 trips to Sephora each. This is Appalling News, and that's the way it is.